The massive trading station hummed with alien activity, its metallic corridors stretching like a complex web of silver and blue. Hyun Park stood near the observation window, his reflection barely visible against the starry backdrop. He was just another human contractor, or so he thought. Around him, strange beings from a dozen different planets moved with purpose. Tentacled creatures in shimmering environmental suits brushed past mechanical beings with crystalline exoskeletons. But Hyun remained unnoticed, wearing simple grey station-issue clothing that blended perfectly with the industrial background. Yoon Kim watched him from a distance. Her tracking device, a small holographic projection only visible to her enhanced vision, displayed a series of complex data points about the human. Height, 1.82 meters. Age, 29. Psychological profile, highly adaptive. Problem-solving index, exceptional. What made Hyun different wasn't immediately obvious. He wasn't muscular or particularly handsome by human standards. His movements were ordinary, his demeanor quiet. But something underneath that ordinary exterior caught Yoon's attention. A small incident would change everything. The station's primary communication network suddenly glitched. Technicians from various species scrambled, their complex repair attempts failing one after another. Alien languages mixed in frustrated exchanges. Panic started to spread. Hyun, who had been casually drinking a bland nutrition drink, approached the central communication console. Nobody paid him much attention. He wasn't an official technician. He wasn't wearing any special uniform. His fingers moved differently, not frantically like the others, but methodically. He seemed to understand the network's underlying structure, in a way no other being had demonstrated. Within minutes, complex holographic circuits began stabilizing. Communication channels restored themselves. The entire station went silent. Yoon Kim's tracking device started generating unexpected readings. Hyun's problem-solving algorithm had just performed a task that would have taken a team of advanced AI systems several hours, and he did it almost casually. One of the senior alien administrators, a tall crystalline being named Krell, approached Hyun. No words were exchanged, just a long, calculating look. The alien's complex eye structures scanned. Hyun like a living diagnostic tool. "Who are you?" Krell finally asked. Hyun simply shrugged. "Just a contract worker from Earth." But those words carried more weight than he realized. In that moment, something fundamental changed. The galaxy would never be the same. Yoon Kim's communication device pinged. A message appeared. Human asset identified, potential unprecedented. The trading station continued its endless dance of commerce and movement. Alien species continued their complex interactions, but something had shifted. A small, almost invisible change that would grow into something massive. Hyun Park returned to drinking his nutrition drink, completely unaware that he had just become the most valuable unknown commodity in the known universe. His ordinary movements, his casual approach to complex problems, had caught the attention of beings who understood value in ways humans could never imagine. The station's lights flickered. Momentarily, a subtle acknowledgement of the extraordinary moment that had just occurred. Somewhere in the vast complexity of galactic systems, a new chapter was beginning. And Hyun Park, the most ordinary of humans, stood at its center, knowing nothing about the revolution he was about to start. The tracking device in Yoon Kim's hand continued generating data, numbers, algorithms, potential. But what it couldn't calculate was the most important thing. The unpredictable human spirit that was about to change everything. One ordinary moment. One extraordinary potential. The galaxy held its breath. The first human mail auctions began in a neutral trading zone, a massive circular platform floating between star systems. Metal walls gleamed under artificial light, and holographic screens displayed complex economic data that most species struggled to understand. Hyun Park stood on a slightly raised platform, surrounded by potential buyers. He felt uncomfortable, like a product being examined. Alien eyes, some with multiple pupils, some without pupils at all, studied him carefully. Gina Lee, the primary economic analyst, watched the proceedings with calculated precision. Her data, tablets flickered with complex algorithms, tracking every micro-reaction, every subtle movement of potential buyers. Starting bid for human male asset, 500,000 galactic credits, announced a mechanical translator voice. Initially, the response was lukewarm. Some alien representatives looked bored, others seemed mildly curious. But then something unexpected happened. A small bidding war erupted. The first bid came from a corporate representative with skin that changed colors like a living chameleon. Then another from a technological collective. Suddenly prices started climbing rapidly. 1 million credits, called one buyer. 2 million, responded another. Hyun remained still, understanding nothing but feeling everything. He was a commodity, yet something about his calm demeanor suggested he was more than just a simple product. Gina noticed something unique in the bidding patterns. Humans weren't just being viewed as workers. They were being seen as problem solvers, as creative resources that could transform entire economic systems. The auction continued. Prices kept rising. By the end, Hyun's contract sold for an unprecedented 15 million galactic credits, more than the value of entire planetary resources. News spread quickly across communication networks. Humans, once considered a minor species, were suddenly the most interesting economic discovery in generations. Corporate meeting rooms across different star systems began discussing the same topic. How could human creativity be monetized? What made these Earth beings so uniquely valuable? Researchers analyzed everything: human adaptability, problem-solving skills, emotional intelligence, risk-taking capabilities. Each analysis revealed something more interesting than the last. Hyun's original contract was simple: provide consulting services for complex logistical challenges. But what he would actually deliver went far beyond any standard agreement. In trading stations and corporate headquarters, a new phrase began circulating: human potential. It wasn't just a term. It was becoming a brand, an entire economic concept that no one fully understood, but everyone wanted to own. Alien corporations started creating specialized departments focused on human recruitment. Training programs were developed. Psychological assessment tools were redesigned. The first wave of human male contracts created a gold rush unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Businesses competed ruthlessly to acquire human talent. Individual. Humans became walking economic opportunities. Gina Lee's initial research report became legendary. She had predicted this moment, but even she was surprised by how quickly it was unfolding. Humans are not just workers, her report stated. They are living innovation platforms. Back on the trading platform, Hyun remained unaware of the massive economic revolution he had just triggered. He was thinking about his next meal, his family back on Earth, his simple life. But everything was changing. The galaxy was reshaping itself around a simple, unexpected discovery. Humans were valuable in ways no one had ever imagined. Alien species began asking new questions. What made humans so different? How could their unique perspective be integrated into existing systems? The market had awakened, and nothing would ever be the same again. Hyun Park, just an ordinary human, had become the center of an extraordinary economic transformation. One person, millions of credits. An entire galaxy watching and wondering. The human revolution had begun. The conference room was silent. Alien executives from 10 different star systems stared at Hyun Park, waiting for his presentation. These were beings who had managed complex galactic economies for thousands of years. They expected precision. They expected logical perfection. Hyun didn't use complicated graphs. He didn't wear a formal suit. Instead, he brought a simple whiteboard marker and started drawing something that looked like a child's sketch. "Our problem is, we're thinking too straight," he said simply. The translation device struggled to capture the nuance of his words, but something in his tone made everyone lean forward. One alien representative, a crystalline being named Krell, tilted his geometric head. His species had never understood human communication. They preferred direct mathematical equations. Emotions were considered inefficient. Hyun's presentation was different. He told stories. He used humor. He explained complex logistics through simple metaphors about cooking and family relationships. Concepts that seemed irrelevant suddenly became clear pathways to solution. The first major disruption happened during a transportation network redesign. Previous alien approaches involved complex mathematical models. Hyun suggested studying how ants and human cities naturally organize themselves. "Nature already solved our problem," he explained. "We just need to copy its system." His solution reduced transportation costs by 62% across 3-star systems. Entire bureaucratic departments were stunned. Alien corporations started requesting more human consultants. But they wanted more than just problem-solving. They wanted the entire human approach to thinking. Corporate training programs began introducing human-style workshops, creativity sessions, emotional intelligence seminars, risk assessment techniques that didn't rely purely on mathematical calculations. Gina Lee watched these developments with professional fascination. Her research was proving correct. Humans were introducing something fundamentally different to galactic systems. The most surprising transformation happened in diplomatic negotiations. Where alien species traditionally used complex mathematical communication protocols, humans introduced emotional understanding. A territorial dispute between 2-star systems, locked in mathematical deadlock for decades, was suddenly resolved by a human negotiation team. They didn't use complex algorithms, they used understanding, empathy, the ability to see beyond pure logic. Alien females became particularly interested, not just in human professional capabilities, but in their entire approach to existence. Human males were no longer just workers, they became cultural ambassadors, walking examples of a different way of thinking about problems, relationships, and potential. Dating markets for human males exploded. Wealthy alien females competed to find partners who could bring creativity, unpredictability, and emotional depth to their lives. Corporate contracts became secondary. Personal connections became primary. Hyun remained somewhat bewildered by all of this. He was just doing what felt natural, solving problems, telling stories, making connections, but he had become something more than just a person. He was a symbol, a representation of human potential that no one had previously understood. Alien societies began reassessing everything: their educational systems, their communication protocols, their understanding of intelligence itself. Humans were teaching them that intelligence wasn't just about processing speed or mathematical precision. It was about adaptability, creativity, the ability to see solutions where others saw only problems. The cultural disruption was complete, and it had started with one ordinary person, in one ordinary moment, doing something extraordinarily human. Hyun Park continued his work, unaware that he was rewriting the fundamental understanding of intelligence across multiple star systems. The galaxy watched and learned. The Galactic Economic Summit looked different this year. Where once rigid mathematical models dominated, now human perspectives took center stage. Gina Lee stood beside Hyun Park, her holographic presentation revealing something unprecedented. "The Human Potential Index," she announced, "has become our most critical economic metric." Alien representatives leaned forward. Some looked confused, others looked excited. The screen behind them showed complex graphs demonstrating how human innovations were transforming entire economic systems. Corporations that employed human consultants saw productivity increase by 300%. Technology development cycles shortened. Problem-solving became faster and more creative. Traditional alien business models started collapsing. Hyun represented something more than just an individual. He was a walking economic revolution. Small. Human consulting teams began appearing on multiple planets. They didn't just solve problems, they reimagined entire systems. A human team redesigned a mining planet's entire infrastructure in 3 weeks. Previous alien attempts had taken decades. Alien businesses started competing aggressively to recruit human talent. Contracts became astronomical. A single human consultant could now command fees that previously required entire planetary resources. The economic landscape transformed rapidly. Humans went from being unknown workers to becoming the most valuable resource in the galaxy. Universities across alien civilizations started developing human thinking courses. They studied human creativity, emotional intelligence, and adaptive problem-solving. What was once considered chaotic was now seen as revolutionary. Gina Lee's research revealed something shocking. Human males were now worth more than rare minerals, advanced technologies, or strategic planetary resources. The first human asset exchange opened on a neutral trading platform. Wealthy alien corporations and individual investors could now officially trade and invest in human potential. It functioned like a complex stock market, but the commodity was human talent. Hyun watched these developments with quiet amazement. He understood little about the massive economic shift he had helped create. To him, he was just doing his job. Solving problems, thinking differently. But he had become something more, a symbol, an economic phenomenon. Alien females became primary investors in human potential. They saw something beyond pure economic value. They recognized a different approach to existence itself. Technological innovations started bearing the unmistakable mark of human creativity. Design principles changed, risk assessment models were rewritten, entire industrial sectors transformed. The Galactic Trade Federation officially recognized humans as a premium economic resource. Meetings that once lasted months now concluded in hours. Complex negotiations became simple conversations. Hyun's original consulting team expanded. More humans were recruited, trained, prepared to be economic ambassadors. The galaxy was learning. That intelligence wasn't just about processing speed or mathematical precision. It was about adaptability, creativity, the ability to see solutions where others saw only problems. Economic models that had remained unchanged for thousands of years suddenly looked obsolete. Alien civilizations that resisted human thinking began falling behind. Those who embraced it thrived. Humans are not just workers, Gina Lee's report stated. They are living innovation platforms. The economic revolution was complete, and it had started with one ordinary person in one ordinary moment doing something extraordinarily human. Hyun continued his work, unaware that he was rewriting the fundamental understanding of economic potential across multiple star systems. Alien boardrooms, once filled with rigid mathematical discussions, now encouraged creative thinking. Humor became a valuable skill. Emotional intelligence was now as important as technological knowledge. The galaxy had discovered its most unexpected treasure, human potential. And everything was about to change even more. The Interstellar Economic Summit looked different this year. Humans were no longer observers. They were leaders. Hyun Park stood at the central platform, representing Earth. Around him, representatives from hundreds of alien civilizations watched carefully. This was more than a meeting. This was a moment of galactic recognition. Humans are not just a species, Hyun said simply. We are a solution. His words, translated across multiple communication systems, carried a weight nobody expected. Alien. Diplomats who once viewed humans as primitive now saw them as revolutionary thinkers. Gina Lee's research had transformed everything. The Human Potential Index was now the most critical economic measurement in the known galaxy. Corporations, governments, and entire civilizations competed to understand and integrate human creativity. The summit hall was massive. Holographic displays showed economic graphs that told an incredible story. Human innovations had solved problems that had existed for thousands of years. Transportation networks, communication systems, resource management. What started as a simple trading experiment had become a complete galactic transformation. Alien species that once considered humans irrelevant now begged for human consultants. Educational institutions developed entire departments focused on human thinking strategies. What was once seen as chaos was now recognized as brilliant adaptability. Hyun represented more than himself. He was a symbol of human potential. The economic models had completely changed. Where mathematical precision once ruled, now creativity and emotional intelligence were the most valuable resources. Human males were no longer just workers. They were living innovation platforms. We didn't conquer with weapons, Hyun explained. We conquered by thinking differently. The alien representatives understood. They had tried complex mathematical solutions for centuries. Humans brought something entirely new, the ability to see beyond existing systems. Technological innovations now carried human fingerprints. Design principles transformed. Risk assessment models were rewritten. Industrial sectors that had been static for generations suddenly became dynamic and adaptive. Alien females had become the primary investors in human potential. They saw something beyond economic value. They recognized a completely different approach to existence. The Galactic Trade Federation officially declared humans as a premium species. Small human consulting teams were now more valuable than entire planetary resources. A single human could solve problems that entire alien research teams couldn't approach. Hyun's original team had expanded. More humans were being recruited, trained, prepared to be economic and cultural ambassadors. The galaxy was learning that intelligence wasn't just about processing speed. It was about adaptability and creativity. Economic systems that had remained unchanged for thousands of years now looked completely different. Alien civilizations that resisted human thinking had fallen behind. Those who embraced it were thriving. The summit was a celebration, but it was more than an economic meeting. It was a recognition of human potential. Gina Lee's final report was simple but powerful. Humans didn't just join the galactic community, they transformed it. Hyun looked around the massive hall. Alien beings from 100 different worlds watched him, some with multiple eyes, some with geometric bodies, some with skin that changed colors, but they all looked at him the same way, with respect. He thought about his family back on Earth. They would never believe this moment. An ordinary person from an ordinary planet had helped change the entire galactic understanding of intelligence and potential, the summit concluded. But something fundamental had changed forever. Humanity had accidentally conquered the galaxy, not through warfare, but through sheer, unpredictable brilliance. And it had all started with one person, in one moment, thinking just a little bit differently. The galaxy would never be the same again.